Okay, got it. Welcome everyone to our Sisters in Crime meeting today. We are the Heart of Texas chapter of Sisters in Crime. Sisters in Crime is an international organization whose mission is to promote the ongoing advanced recognition and professional development of women crime writers. We are writers and readers, women and men, who share an interest in crime fiction. Current members live throughout Central Texas from Waco to San Antonio, but our territory has no boundaries, which our speaker today is absolutely one of those. I believe you're up in the far northwest, Kate, but talk about that in a second. So no matter where you live, you are welcome. I am Kathy Gresham. I write as KP, and I am the chapter president for the Heart of Texas chapter. A couple of announcements before we get started. First of all, next month, August, we are looking at kind of getting back into our chapter feel. We will definitely be doing it Zoom because some folks are still doing Zoom with us. But we are going to have kind of a discussion about topics that are important to our members. So far, we have how do you choose your POV as a possible topic of discussion. It's a Heart of Texas open forum. I guess I should have said that. Also, character development. How do you develop your characters? And how far back into their lives do you go? Why do you choose them? How do you introduce them to your audience? And then, of course, marketing. But Kate's going to be dealing with that quite a bit today. So without further ado, I think I shall introduce our main speaker and let Kate Lawley take it away. Kate Lawley, our very own Hot Sync member, writes humorous, action-filled mysteries that frequently contain a paranormal twist. And when she's writing as Kate Beret, she writes page-turning urban fantasy with relatable characters. For more about Kate, we'll ask you to check out her website, and we'll put that in the chat. For those of you who are here taking notes, that website is www.KateLawley, CateLawley.com. And without further ado, Kate, thank you so much for joining us and for talking about, we have gotten to know you so well in the marketing happy hour situation that our chapter does the first Thursday of every month. And guys, you are in for an expert, and ask any questions that you want. Kate, take it away. And we need to unmute her, or she needs to unmute her. There she goes. Okay, very good.
Yeah, I just want to make sure none of my background noise comes through when other people are speaking. I do have a dog in the background. He's busy and happy, so I'm hoping you guys can't hear him chewing on his stuff. I'm going to go ahead and start my PowerPoint presentation because it starts with a little bit about me. And let's see if I can. I see that. Let's see if I can get this working right. We tested to make sure that I could share screen, but I didn't actually start this. 2 seconds. Here we go. There it is. Okay.
Maureen.
Go to my bar, then we'll be good. There and there. Okay. All right, so the title of this presentation is Marketing 101, a three-pronged attack. And I write as Kate Beret, Kate Lawley, and Gemma Cates. Those are my 3 pen names. My real name is actually Kate. Really? There it is. There we go. So who's Kate, and Gemma? I am a full-time author writing cozy mysteries, romance, and urban fantasy. I always tell people, check me out on all the social places, not because I want you to follow me, not because I want you to go buy my books, not because, I think it's, important for you to see me. I think it's important that you do that for anyone whose presentations you're attending. And I find sometimes that people don't do that. So seriously, go check me out and anyone else whose presentations you're attending. Some of the places that you can do that are on Goodreads. If you're not familiar with Goodreads, then check it out. Goodreads, BookBub, BookBub, and Amazon. And I consider all of those social channels because Amazon, even though it's obviously a company selling goods, they have a follow button for authors. So those are the three places where you can kind of check out what people are doing as far as what books they're producing. So definitely check me out there, check all your presenters out there. And also,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we forgot to ask you if it's okay to record this, and we needed to put that in the recording. Is it all right if we record you?
yes, thank you for asking.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
Okay, and then don't forget that while you're out there kind of checking everyone out, that you should go find your people. You should definitely follow people on all the social places that are in your subgenres. So if you're a mystery writer, not only do you want to follow mystery folks, you want to follow people who are cozy mystery or suspense or whatever your subgenre is, right? And the way I'm doing this right now, I can only see my PowerPoint presentation. So if someone has a question or if something's popping up that I'm not aware of, you guys are going to have to holler at me because I can't really see anything. All right, so my presentation goals today. This presentation is a general overview. So what that means is there's a ton of stuff in here. I mean, really, there's so much stuff. And I understand that there are people of differing I guess, experience levels that are attending or listening. And so for that reason, there is a little bit of advanced stuff in here, but there's a lot of intro stuff too. There's a lot of what are called terms of art, things that I use without really thinking about it. So if I'm going through and I'm like, and you're like, wow, I have no idea what she's talking about, just make a note. Because one of the goals that I have for this presentation is to get y'all to attend more business presentations and discussions, and maybe to ask if there's some segment of this presentation that you guys are like, wow, that was interesting, but I didn't really get it, or there wasn't enough information, or it was really superficial, but I think it's a cool topic. I'm hoping that you guys will reach out to Kathy or whoever in Sisters in Crime that's running the presentations and say, hey, we want more on that. And they can find someone who has advanced level expertise in that, and they can perhaps give a presentation solely on that segment. Okay. All right, and here's my other goal. To money or not to money, right? If you don't hate money, which none of us hate money, right? Nobody really hates money. If you don't hate money, but you also don't necessarily want to make money with your books, that's actually cool, right? That's not me, but that's actually completely cool. And I think when we start talking about a lot of these business things and what marketing is, and how we can, get more people to see our books, to buy our books, and we start talking about all these things, that can be really overwhelming for people who don't actually want to make money with their books. Maybe they think they do, but they don't really want to. So I would say if you're that person, not the person who wants to make money, but is overwhelmed by all the things, that's like everyone, just so you know, that's everyone. We all have to start somewhere and take it step by step by step, right? You eat the whale one bite at a time. But if you are overwhelmed because you're finding that it's all just really distasteful to you and it's not things that you want to do, and that's okay. That's completely okay. But there's two things that I kind of wanted to talk about. There are two myths that kind of fall into this whole, whether you should make money, whether you shouldn't make money. And really it's that should. There is, in the land of art and writing and books and any kind of creative endeavor, there is this idea that creatives shouldn't expect to be paid, or they shouldn't expect a living wage. That's complete garbage. I mean, if you would like to make money with your books, you kind of have to get over that, right? You have to say, no, that is something that has been in our culture for a really long time. And you kind of have to say, okay, that's not me. I don't believe that. I believe that my art has value. Otherwise, it's really hard to convince other people that it does, and it's really hard to sell your books. And I find sometimes it creeps in when we least expect it because it's been floating around in our culture for so long. So if that's one of the reasons that you're like, oh, making money is icky, think about that, right? Absolutely, totally great if you don't want to make money with your books. Not so great if it's because you think that creative work in general has no value or shouldn't be paid for. And then kind of on the other end of that spectrum, complete opposite end of that spectrum, is this idea that now that my book is done, I should make money from it. It should be easy to make money from it. And if I don't, it's because my book sucks, or because it's not this enough, it's not that enough, it's not the right book. And while there may be things that you can do to improve your book. It's frequently that's not what the issue is. Frequently there are other things involved, right? So because again, it's a business and simply creating a wonderful book is not sufficient to sell a book. So those are kind of two ends of the spectrum. One, if you wrote it, it should just automatically make money, even without you treating it as a business. And on the other hand, creative work like books don't truly have any value and you shouldn't expect to be paid for them. And I just want you guys to kind of keep that in the back of your minds anytime you're thinking about money. All right, this is a little exercise for you guys, and we're going to revisit this at the very end of the presentation. So I'd love for you to write it down. List 3 goals for your writing. We're just going to take just a few minutes. I'm actually going to time it. I'm only going to do 2 minutes for this, but I want 3 goals for your writing. And I'm going to give you mine just to give you an idea. Now, mine are a little different because mine are goals for my career. Mine are freedom, self-determination of such things as schedule and type of work, to continue to make a living with my writing so that I can enjoy the freedoms of living a writer's life, and to write the type and variety of content that satisfies me creatively so that my author career is long and productive. Yours could be completely different. Doesn't matter. This is just an example, but I want you to take just 2 minutes and I want you to write down your 3 goals for writing, whatever they may be. And I am timing you now.
Yeah, I do that in our.
Okay, so that's 2 minutes. Hang on to that. We're just going to revisit it at the end. And since I can't see you guys, I don't know if that was too little or too much time, but hopefully it was enough for you to jot something down. Okay, here's my disclaimer that I have to give. We're talking about marketing, and then nowhere in the title does it say indie or self-published. I am self-published. And just as a matter of course, anyone who is self-published has more control over all of the aspects of their books and producing their books and publishing their books, right? So I have more control. If you're traditionally published, you are not going to necessarily be able to alter some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. That doesn't mean that nothing we're talking about today applies to traditionally published authors. But again, a lot of the control that you have as a self-published author is going to be what allows you to change the things that need changing if you are going to market your books. So that's my official disclaimer. All right, we're going to talk about packaging, visibility, keeping readers, and a little, just tiny bit about reader retention, which is about creating a fan base. I'm not great at that. And if that's a topic you guys are super interested in, then there are people who are so amazing at that. And there's so much to do with that. It is a more advanced topic. It's something that you do once you have a larger catalog, but that is another topic for you guys to pursue if you're interested. Just to be clear, when I'm talking about packaging, I'm gonna talk to you about what is packaging and how do you specifically hit your genre when you are packaging. Visibility, I'm talking about how do you get readers' eyes on your book, and then keeping readers, also called reader retention, or creating buy-through, meaning buying from one book to the next book to the next book. Those are the things we're going to be talking about. Packaging. So packaging, there's some confusion over this sometimes, but packaging includes things like your cover. I think that one's pretty obvious. It also includes your title, your subtitle, your series name, your author name, your product page description. I refer to this frequently as a blurb. If you come from the land of traditional publishing, that is not what blurb means. But when self-published people talk about blurbs, they're talking about that ad copy that appears on the product page for your book on your website book page, right? That's what we're talking about when we say blurb. Reviews and pricing. These are all a part of your packaging. And just to kind of give you an example of what that looks like, I'm going to show you an Amazon page. And the reason for that is that Amazon has, Amazon has basically turned a product page into an art form and a data-driven art form. They have refined and honed their product pages to sell books. They're very, very good at selling all the things, books included. So typically when you're looking at conversion rates of conversion, meaning whoever goes there actually does the thing you want them to do, actually buys the book. Amazon's typically going to have a higher conversion rate. So this is a great product page to look at. And this has all the things we talked about. It has the, hopefully you guys can see my cursor. It has the cover, it has the title, it has the series title, it has Mark Dawson's name. If you live in the land of thrillers and read tons and tons and tons and tons of thrillers like genre readers do, you will know who Mark Dawson is. It's got pricing, Kindle Unlimited, I would consider to be a part of pricing. And it has all these formats that actually also is a part of your packaging. Just the appearance there that you can clearly get all of these things and all of these, you can get this book in all of these formats. That is a part of the packaging, even if you are targeting in some specific instance an ebook reader. And the reason for that is because you're seeing the prices and you're getting this price discount with the ebook. Also, you're seeing that it has a certain level of professionalism because all of these different varieties of formats are available. This is that blurb, right? Again, not a synopsis. It is ad copy to sell your book, but that's the blurb right here. So it has all those things. So before you begin working on your packaging, and that's any of the things, that's your cover, your title, any of the things, you should know what your genre, your subgenres, and your tropes are. So for genre, I'm just going to give you an example here. Because I'm a cozy mystery writer, right? This is easier for me to give you an example for, but I know the reason I gave you that Mark Dawson example is when I went to the Sisters in Crime website, I noticed that there are a lot of suspensey looking covers. So I figured it would be good to throw in a thriller, some type of thriller looking thing. Okay, so genres. So mystery is the overarching genre, right? Technically, I guess fiction is, but mystery. And then a subgenre of mystery would be cozy mystery. And then a subgenre would be culinary cozy mystery. So whatever your books are that you're writing, you should know down to that, whatever smallest breakout point that you can, you should know what those genres are for the book. Sometimes that's super easy, especially since we're all, for the most part, I think, mystery writers. It's a little easier when you're a mystery suspense thriller writer to determine that than it is sometimes if you're writing some other forms of fiction. So as far as tropes are concerned, I'm going to I think we're all very trope friendly here since we're genre fiction writers, but I'm going to go ahead and just give you one definition of trope: a commonplace, recognizable plot element, theme, or visual cue. So to give you an example, when I'm writing my romance books, I even include, this has got a lot of profanity in it. So, or this is a high heat level, or this is a little sweet. Low heat level, or I even include that when I'm listing out my tropes, right? So here's an example for a mystery. You've got MC as main character. Main character is a female trope, amateur, canning, jarring aficionada trope that has a pet cat trope, a love interest trope, potentially a law enforcement or first responder extra trope, Alternatively, possessing some skill or interest that aids in solving mysteries, another trope, and lives in a small community, trope, that is quirky, picturesque, or in some way endearing, noteworthy, interesting, also trope, right? So that gives you some examples of perhaps what you may be looking for when you're trying to list these out for yourself. All right, packaging exercise for you. Jot down the main genre and subgenres of 2 of your titles. And if there are people here who haven't published a single book yet, it's all good. We're going to have we're going to be talking a little bit about if you have a whole bunch of books, this is what you do, right? Doesn't matter most of the time. That's still applicable when you have no books and are planning for a series or for multiple books, or if you just have a few books. So don't be worried about the fact that we're talking about multiple books. If you only have one book, right, jot down that one book. All right. Pick one of those and brainstorm as many tropes as you can think of in the next 2 minutes. And I'm actually only going to give you a minute for this one. I think it's helpful to write it down. We're not going to revisit this other than I hope that you will be looking for the parallels and the examples I'm going to show you. But go ahead and jot down, just for your own personal edification, what those tropes would be for your book. Okay. Hang on to that for your own, once again, for your own information. These are good things to know when you're doing basically everything else that is involved with packaging. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about covers quite a bit. And then when we're done with covers, I'm basically going to tell you, go back and do the same thing for titles, go back and do the same thing for subtitles and series titles. The cover, because it's the first point of contact with readers, is the one that I decided to spend the most time on. So that's why we're going to talk a whole bunch about covers and not very much about the other packaging things. So first of all, you want to find cover comps in your subgenre. If you go to the top 100 paid books and oh gosh, I forgot to mark what subgenre this was. I mean, this is cozy mystery. I just don't know if it's a subgenre. This might be culinary cozies. I doubt, well, it may just be cozy mysteries. Anyways, this is the top 100 paid Amazon list. And you can see, first of all, I want you to note how small these all look, and be always aware that when people are on their phone or their computer, their cover is not taking up the entire screen like it is when you're looking at it with your cover artist. So this is an important thing to note right here. These are all tiny, and make note of that. 2, you can see they all look kind of different, but do they really? So let's go back. So that's where one of the places where you would find cover comps for your subgenre. You want to focus on books with similar tropes to yours, right? So that list that you just made, if you have small town, then you want to not necessarily look at the city landscapes, right? If you have a book where setting isn't a very strong character, then these gorgeous, you guys know Sarah Rosette? She has these gorgeous landscape covers, right? So you don't want to have a gorgeous landscape cover if setting is not a character in your book. So be sure that the covers that you're focusing on are the ones that are going to reflect your tropes, your subgenre. Then what you're going to do is you're going to group similar covers together. So I can look right here and I can say, okay, number 2 and number 3 are quite similar, as is number 4. Number 5 is completely different. Number 7, number 8, and number 10, very similar. Now, these are different subgenres. You want to do this all within one subgenre. So these 7, 8, and 10 are historicals. and they tend to have a certain feel. But you notice even within the historicals, 8 is significantly different looking from 7 and 10. Now that's the same artist, 7 and 10, but that look is a look. There are other artists that have that same look. So what you're going to do is you're going to take all the covers in your subgenre. Okay, my subgenre is a smaller number of them. Okay, of those, which ones have the tropes that are closest to mine? You've gotten this kind of smallish number by now. And then you're going to say, okay, now that I've whittled it down to this smaller group, I can kind of see that there are certain looks, and maybe there's 2 sets or maybe there's 3 sets, but there's going to be trends, and you want to kind of separate those trends out and kind of lump them together. Oops. All right, then you want to find the common elements. So this is one of the easiest examples for me because it's my own genre. But if you look at paranormal cozy mysteries, they all have a moon in the background. I mean, the occasional one does not, but they basically, that's an essential element for paranormal cozy mysteries. So you want to find the things that all the covers share, those essential elements that jump up and down and scream, this is this genre, right? Because readers, voracious readers who read in the genre, they see that and they automatically, without even realizing, are categorizing that cover in their head as, you know, the kind I read, not the kind I read, the kind I read, not the kind I read, right? And you don't want to be discounted as not the kind that they read when you are the kind they read. So you want to find those essential elements and the genre markers that are applicable to your story. All right. Once you've done all that, and this takes a minute, right? And it takes some familiarizing, especially if you're not real sure on your subgenre, but it takes a little bit of time to familiarize yourself with different kinds of covers. Once you've done all that, you're going to create a brief for your cover designer. And a brief is just a little document. They frequently will guide you in this. They will give you a document to fill out that, and you want to include the cover pics and you want to include the descriptions. And you want to say, I want something like this. Now, again, this is a presentation. So if you're really excited about covers, there is all sorts to be learned from lots of really cool people who are really fabulous at covers. This is something I went on my Facebook, like on my phone, and I just scrolled and I just screen capped every book that popped up. And I want you to see out in the wild what these books look like. This is how you'll see them. This is how you'll use them yourself. Oh, by the way, I read a lot of romance. Sorry, lots of romance in here. And it's really important to note that because those elements, so Soul Sisters, new releases, these are women's fiction with a holiday theme, right? And I can see that quite quickly, right? This is hard to see, kind of. I'm like, what is that darkness with some dog? Not great, right? And I know this person, I mean, it's like she has great covers, but that one happens to be quite dark, right? I mean, even tiny, right? There's this book. What is that? I'm not sure, but you can say, oh, I have a guess though, because even tiny, you can see it's a woman in a gorgeous blue dress, right? Even tiny, Deanna Chase, you can see magic, right? There's that moon we talked about. So even when they're teeny tiny, there are certain things you should still be able to see on these, and they're called thumbnails when you're looking at them at this size, okay? So that's just to kind of give you an idea. Again, when you're looking on your screen and you see this huge, like takes up most of your screen picture that your cover artist has given you, that's not representative of what the people out in the land of reality are seeing. They're seeing a much smaller version. Okay, so like I said before, this is a rinse and repeat. Once you've gone through the process of researching your cover, now you do the same for your title, your subtitle, your series name, your author name, your blurb, and your pricing. If you are writing under your own name, then that is irrelevant. But if you happen to be writing under pen names, then my pen name for my funny paranormal romance is Gemma Cates. It's a super fun name. It's super short and super fun because my books are super fun and funny, right? So you want to actually contemplate with a pen name whether it's appropriate for the genre as well. All right, so review tips. Getting reviews. We talked about this in the monthly marketing meeting just recently. And if you guys know Pat Kelly, he had this great list of services that you can use. So you should totally hit him up. Sisters in Crime people, you should totally hit Pat Kelly up for his list of really cool services for getting reviews. There's also the idea of creating an ARC team. I'm not going to talk more about that. An ARC team is an advanced reader copy team. They get an early copy of your book, then they leave reviews. It is a process. It requires management, it requires building. But again, if you want to impact the number of reviews on your product page, that's one way to do it. As far as pricing, go and look and see what other people are doing. But I strongly encourage you, every book, every author, every catalog behaves differently. So it's really important that you recognize that's a changeable thing. Again, if you're self-published and can change that, it is a changeable thing. One thing I always tell people is pick a price. And if you're not happy, then you have X amount of time where you've collected data and you know what the sales data is, change that price. And then collect more data at a different price point, right? So you can change your price point for sure. So that's all I've got on pricing. All right, so this is confusing. I'm going to read it slowly, and then I'm going to show you a graphic. When out in the wild, out in the land of where we're trying to sell books, your cover, which includes all the things that packaging includes, right? Because it has the title and the series and the name on it, will get eyes on your book and encourage clicks to your product page. So cover grabs attention, gets people to click on over. So cover gets eyeballs, which then pulls people to your product page, which is this thing right here. I just used a random, one of my random books. Your product page, which has your cover, your title, your series name, your author name, your blurb, your price, your reviews, is going to either keep or lose readers' interest, right? So at any one of these 3 points that I've listed here, people are either going to look at it and want to know more, look at it and walk away, or look at it and buy. People will buy purely on the basis of a cover, and then they will complain because they didn't read the blurb where you said something XYZ, like, and they'll be like, I didn't know that. I didn't bother to read the blurb. So people will buy, not buy, and walk away, or pursue more information for any one of these levels, right? So cover, buy, walk away, or to your product page, buy, walk away, or to your sample, right? Your engaging, error-free sample will close the deal if your cover and your blurb haven't. By the time they're downloading a sample, they want to buy the book. They just want to make sure it doesn't completely annoy the bejesus out of them, right? And that's what this looks like. This is a very simplified version. I am not a graphics whiz. So cover to product page, to sample, to buy, recognizing that at any point along here, they can buy or they can walk away. So for packaging, this is just a quick summary. Know your genre, your subgenre, your tropes. Seriously, really, really, really do. That's why we wrote them down. Research trends and essential elements, right? For covers, titles, and blurbing. Test your pricing. Recognize that testing, I did not talk about this. When you test something, you're looking at some kind of data previous to the test that is hopefully stable, is enough data that it's stable. You were making one change and only one change, and you're looking at that one change, what that one change does, and you're making a determination as to whether you should keep that or test something different, right? So testing is great. It's great for everything. Hire cover artists who excel in your genre and possibly also review services or ARC teams, right? Polish your sample. And if you're having problems, if you're having a packaging fail, I can tell you, if you're not selling enough books, it's not because your book sucks, right? Your book may suck. I have no idea. I'm just saying that's you not selling books is not a representation of the quality or lack of quality or the on-genre-ness or lack of genre, whatever. It is not. It is absolutely a packaging fail. Whether or not someone finishes your book, whether or not someone buys the next book, that's a completely different story. But getting them to buy that first book, unless you're some big word of mouth hit and people are talking all over the place about you, then the quality of your book can clearly have a positive impact. But I'm talking about someone sees it out in the wild, and whether they buy it or not, it's not whether the book's good or not. It is absolutely a packaging issue, right? So if you're having a packaging fail, lower than expected sales, then there's a failure in your packaging. You need to test alternative covers. You need to test alternative pricing. You need to refresh your hook. If you're not familiar with what your hook is, it's frequently my series concept for me. So I have a vegan vampire mystery series. The hook is in the series title. I've got a lost library. That is the hook for my lost library series. So if you don't have a hook, come up with one. There's probably one in there somewhere. Reevaluate your titles, your series titles, whether it's a series versus a standalone and how you're representing that to people. Have another set of eyes, read your sample. These are all things that you can do to kind of tweak and improve the package that you currently have. All right, before we go to visibility, do we want to ask, are there any questions about this? Any words I used that were super confusing? Any questions about what I was talking about that anyone wants to ask?
There is a question about, could you please explain the hook again?
Oh yeah, a hook is that intriguing. I didn't look this up as a definition, so I probably should have. It's much better when someone else describes it than when I try and make it up on the fly. It's basically that unique and intriguing concept that's different about your series or your book, right? It's that thing that's like super. People hear just that and they're like, yes, I would like to buy that, right? I have a series, Dragon Shifters Do It. Sexy nerdy dragon, right? That's my hook, sexy nerdy dragon. So that thing that people are like, yes, I want that, right? It's not a tagline. It's just a concept boiled down to the barest part, right? That is super intriguing and exciting and interesting to people when they hear it. It's not helpful. It's totally not the real definition. That's the best I can come up with off the top of my head.
There's another question in the chat. It's do readers get upset if you change the price after they may have purchased the book?
Okay, so I was really worried about this. And when I say really worried about it, I'm like talking like years. It probably took me like 4 years to not worry about that. I don't care. What I don't do is I don't say release a book at full price and discount it the second day. I don't do that. Generally speaking, we think because we have all the information that everyone has all the information. All these people out there in the world are looking at your book and they have all the information. They probably have no idea you're discounting it. They seriously have no idea. And readers, for the most part, recognize that you run sales on your books for reasons and that will happen. And some readers will wait for those sales, and that's great. You want those readers too. But as far as people being actually angry, I really don't. And people will email me about stuff, and I do not get emails about that. So I really don't worry about it as long as I am comfortable and feel like what I am doing is ethical, and I do it. I have stopped concerning myself with that. It really did bother me. I was like, oh, once I pick a price, that's the price, because otherwise, if someone bought it like 3 months ago, and no, I don't worry about that at all. I don't typically discount within the first 3 months, but I may if I have a reason to. My decisions are based on my business being successful and me being able to pay my bills and making the business successful. And really, really, voracious readers want you to write more books more than anything. They want you to write more books. And most of them understand that means you got to make a living, right? Not all of them understand that, but a lot of them do. Does that answer that question?
For the folks in the room, please realize there are snacks in the back and help yourselves at any time.
All right, are we cool to do the next section?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Visibility, how do I get reader eyes on my book? So I just want to be clear here. Marketing includes publicity. It includes advertising. We are not talking about publicity. Advertising is promoting your book or brand through paid channels, some unpaid as well, but we're talking about promotions. That's what we're going to be talking about when I'm talking about visibility. One thing that a lot of indies and self-published people will turn their nose up at is the idea of publicity. Not because it's not great, it's great. Publicity is awesome. And if you're a publicist, I hope you're not offended by me saying this. And until you're making a lot of money, like not just a living, more than a living, most indie authors are not looking at using a publicist. And the reason for that is you are increasing your public visibility and awareness of your book or brand. How vague and amorphous does that sound? It is useful, it is valuable, it is also hard to look at the money. And when people are out there hustling for their, to sell products that cost $2.99, $3.99, $5.99, we are looking at the pennies and the cents, right? So you can measure the monetary gain and the return on your investment much more easily on a promotion than you can on publicity. So it's typically when you're talking to authors who are using a publicist, which I do not have a publicist. I would love to have a publicist. I would be making probably 4 times what I make if I decided to use one. So it is, we're talking about promotions. Okay, so pre-promotion prep. Consider what types of books you have in your catalog. Discounted versus full price. And full price can be variable, right? I mean, a 99-cent book may be full price for you if it's a short story, or if it's a book you just always have at 99 cents. But if it's a full-size book and it's 99 cents, I would consider it discounted. Full price and discounted can also include free. What is your backlist versus your front list, right? Your backlist is all the stuff you've already published, everything out there that already exists. Your front list is that thing you're releasing, right? It's your new stuff. Or if you release a book a year, no shade on you. If you're releasing a book a year, that's really awesome. But if you're releasing a book a year, then maybe it's the book you published within the last year. That's still considered your front list. Standalones versus series. Is it truly a standalone? It exists in and of itself. Is it a standalone, as in it can be read and enjoyed by itself, but exists within a series? Or is it a series book that needs to be read in order? Like, those are things you kind of need to have in your head. And if you probably do, if you have less than 5 books, you're probably like, I know those things, right? If you're like me and you have a lot of books, you're like, let's just write all that down. Like, let's make sure we know that. All right. Here's a quiz for you. Are you familiar with your catalog, past, present, and future? And for this one, I do want you to write it down, because we're going to come back and revisit this on the next slide, actually. So write down your answers for this. Which is the one book you'd recommend to someone new to your catalog? If you have 1 book, that's easy. If you have 5 books, think about what that would be. If you have 50 books, think about what that would be. 1 book only. And don't think about it for very long. Write it down. That's your answer. Boom. How many books do you plan to release in the next year, 3 years, 5 years? Do you know where they fit in your catalog? For example, if you have multiple pen names, what pen names they would be under, whether they'd be the same or new genres, whether they're a series or a standalone, and if they're a series, what series. And I do want you to take a few minutes and go ahead and write this down. And the reason I would not do 5 years for me, I write probably 6 books in a year. So for those of you who are writing a book a year, do 5 years. For those of you who are writing more like 3 to 6, or maybe even 10, I don't know who's here exactly, you might just do the next year, but go ahead and write this down, and I'll give you 2 minutes to do this. Okay, I think that was about 2 minutes. But there's another question for you. And I'm going to have to explain this one. What's your ideal reader journey? So a reader journey, I don't know if I got this from someone else or if I made the name up myself. The concept is commonly known. It's not a me thing. I just can't remember if it has a name from somewhere else or from me. Anyways, the reader journey is if there's a point at which people find you and they read a book, in the land of your ideal world, what would they read next, then next, then next, until they made their way all the way through your catalog, right? So if you have 5 books and they're all in one series, to give you a simple example, a very linear example, then you would want them to start with 1 and you would want them to finish with 5 typically, right? Unless maybe you're a romance writer and you have a stronger book 3 or something like that, right? Typically start with 1, then go to 2, then go to 3, then go to 4, then go to 5, right? You can see how if you have multiple series, that gets a little more complicated and complex. So take just a second and think about what your ideal reader journey is, and we'll take like a minute or two to do that. Go ahead. And for those of you who have done this quickly, what I would also ask you to do is to go ahead and add why would they move from one book to the next. This is especially relevant when shifting series. Okay. What do you promote? So, you want people to see your books. Promotion is one way to make your books be seen once your packaging is all shiny and perfect, as best as you know. You want your releases, right, to be seen for sure. Brand new, shiny, exciting releases. So this is from your quiz, right, that you just took. This is the second one. How many books do you plan to release in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever? So it's good to know, even if this changes, it's good to know about what is happening in the future, approximately what is happening in the future, because those will be promotions as they release, and preferably before they release too. Something else you'll be promoting, discounted books, right? Discounting is one way to make your catalog more accessible to people. They're more likely to try an unknown author if it is free or less expensive. People who are known household names, they still have discounts on those books, right? Because there's a certain part of the population, they don't want to try something unless it's very cheap. I'm really cheap about new authors. I tend to be satisfied with the sample and then I'll buy the book. But there are a lot of people out there who are cheap with new authors, and it's not a question always of money. Sometimes it's a question of time too. They're like, okay, well, it's a lot of time for me to read this whole book. And then on top of that, you want me to give you $6 and I don't know if I'm going to even like you. So discounted books are a great way to do that. Which books do you discount? Going back to your quiz, which is the one book you'd recommend to someone new to your catalog? That's like your strongest, most attractive, most generally appealing book, right? That book is frequently a great book to discount because that's going to sell them on the awesomeness of you. Going back to your quiz again, number 3, what's your ideal reader journey? Well, if you have a reader journey, whether it's linear or whether it's branching off in all directions with weirdness because you have like 6 series, either way, you've got this reader journey where people are entering. It may always be a book 1, it may be a standalone book, it may be whatever it is, but an entry point, a point where someone can read that book and not be super confused, they can be satisfied. That's called an entry point. And those are the ones that you also want to consider discounting. Okay, so again, that goes back to your reader journey number 3. Your backlist, full price backlist books. I for sure do that. I have ads running to book 1 in my series. It's a good entry point, but I don't want to discount it. So you can absolutely advertise backlist full price books. There's certain ways to do it. But again, it's going to be those entry point books. Because new to you people, right? You got new to you people, make sure that they're not going to be confused or upset by coming into your catalog with the book that you're promoting. And then the other thing you can promote is engagement with you or your worlds. And this is more of a fan building thing. All right, types of promotions. I'm going to whiz through this. I don't think I said this at the beginning. At the end, there's a QR code and a link where I've uploaded this to YouTube, this presentation. And it's 3 minutes long. I mean, it's just the slides, right? It's not like that you going to the video that they will be posting of us me explaining it all. It is just the slides. So if you want that at the end, it will be available to you. So this is quite dense. I'm just going to whiz through them. Social follow announcements, including Amazon, BookBub, Goodreads. So what I mean by social follow announcements, if you go to Goodreads, you can follow your favorite authors. If you go to BookBub, you can follow your favorite authors. If you go to Amazon, you can follow your favorite authors. And when you do that, you will get notices that tell you whenever the author has a new book, right? So it's super great because a lot of people, they don't want your emails. They don't want you to own their information. Like they already exist on BookBub or Amazon or Goodreads, so they don't mind them having the information. They don't want you to have it. So that's great, totally fine. So make sure, and the reason I consider this a promotion is you have to go to that place, BookBub, Amazon, Goodreads, and you have to create a profile as an author. And you have to exist there in order for people to follow you. These are in order vaguely of ease of access. So that's one of the easiest things you can do. And I think it's low-lying fruit and you should absolutely do it. The next thing is your newsletter, sending out releases and discounts and fan building fun stuff and backlist books, discounted or full price. All these things can be sent through your newsletter. It is more difficult because it's not just setting up a profile, it's doing some other things. And I don't talk a lot about newsletters. I think they're fabulous, so huge. So if you guys have interest in that as a topic on its own, that's like, there's so many great people to talk about that. But creating your newsletter and incentivizing people to come and join your newsletter and keeping them engaged, those are all awesome things. But again, if you have a newsletter, sending out a newsletter is something that I would consider to be a promotion. Every single time I send out a newsletter, that goes on my marketing calendar. Newsletter builders. These are weird because they're advertised as a way to get new subscribers to your newsletter. And that's kind of, I mean, you are getting new subscribers to your newsletter. That's not really what they are though. What they really are is they're a free book. They're with the added bonus that you get these people's email addresses. But if you have 1,000 people that you get through some kind of a newsletter builder, it's like a service, you pay for this, right? So if you get 1,000 emails, right? And every one of those 1,000 people gets an email from you and you're giving them some cool thing, usually a free book. And they're getting this free book. And of those 1,000 people, how many of those people are going to absolutely love that book and want to read all your things? Not 1,000 of them, right? And that's why I don't consider newsletter builders primarily building your newsletter. I consider them to be primarily exposing all these great people who might be interested in your new book, right? Or you and a new book to them. So that's a great thing to do. It's just not necessarily a great way to build your newsletter. So I encourage people to do it. Just recognize that it's a little bit of a misnomer. Okay, and again, it's a service, you pay for it, you get the emails. It's relatively simple, right? It's pretty accessible. The fourth one is pretty simple to do. It is not as accessible. You have to know people in your genre. So this is other authors' newsletters. We call them swaps. Hey, I have this thing coming out. It's a book. It's a first in a series. It's going to be discounted or whatever. You have something that makes it appealing and very accessible. And you can ask your buddy who also writes in the same subgenre if they would feature it in their newsletter. Totally a thing that people do. Sorry, I can't read it except that stuff up here. Okay. Retailer promotions. Now, some people only publish to Amazon, and we're talking about self-published people, obviously. Only publish to Amazon, some publish everywhere. I publish everywhere. So there are retailer, meaning Kobo, Amazon, whatever, promotions that you can participate in. If you're published to Kobo, there is a dashboard where you can go in and say, I want to participate in these, and they will say yes or no. Same for Barnes & Noble. It's a little more complicated with Apple. You have to be invited to participate, and that's a little bit different, but just be aware that exists. And Kindle also has them. So as an example, I have this really old collection, and they were like, do you want to do this thing? And I was like, sure. Worst thing that happens is they discount my book and no one buys it. It's an old book. I'm not going to be sad that my book is discounted for a while and no one buys it. Okay, whatever. I think I made like $200 or $300 on that today. Last time I looked. And I was like, oh, magic money on an old book, right? So these are great. If you can get them, they're great. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how to get access to them, but know that they exist. Paid newsletter services. This is someone else has created a newsletter, a mailing list, and they are selling access to their list to you. The biggest and best one is BookBub. There are so many other ones though. BookBub, you have to apply. They say they only take 20%. I'm highly suspicious of that number. I think they take less than 20%. So it's hard to get into it. But lots of the other ones, you just sign up when they have a slot and they will give you a spot, right? It's mostly for discounted books. There are some that do promotions for new releases that are full price. They're pretty pricey. So I would focus on this for discounted books. And then the last one, because it's the most difficult, is CPC, meaning cost per click ads. And Facebook has cost per click ads, as does Amazon, as does BookBub. This is great for new releases and for discounted books. That said, I have not had good luck with BookBub new release ads. Excuse me. So primarily, I do discounted with BookBub and full price with Amazon and Facebook. And again, these are listed in order of how accessible they are. All right, prioritizing. You've got limited resources, so you have to budget. You need to consider your time, your energy, and your money when you're choosing what to schedule. So like I said, learning Facebook ads can be really time consuming, really frustrating, and incredibly expensive, but it can also be very profitable if you have the time, the money, and the energy. So you don't have to spend a ton of money on them, but usually in order to learn how to do it, you have to spend some money and maybe not make any. And that sucks when you have a pretty small budget. So I would say just be aware. And again, we're not talking in great depth about any of these things, but be aware of what the cost is for your time, for your, I say energy because I've talked to so many people who've been so frustrated trying to learn Facebook ads. And you really have to have the mental toughness to be like, push through. And if you're not in that place, then don't do that. If you are in that place, go forth and conquer. My second example would be applying for spots in paid newsletters, like BookBub. Some other ones are FreeBooksy, Fussy Librarian. It's relatively quick and simple to do. It's not terribly expensive, but it also has limited effectiveness. So again, you just kind of have to look at, how much money do I have? How much time do I have to learn how to do the thing? And how much energy do I have to put forth to learning something new, right? As far as testing, as far as promotions are concerned, testing is your friend. If you do it once and it works, do it again. Maybe not right away, depending on what it is that we're talking about. But what that requires, though, is for you, anytime you're going to do a promotion, recognize what's going on before the promotion, recognize when the promotion starts and what impact that has on your sales, and then follow the data until the effects have diminished. And that's the only way you're really going to know what that particular thing you did, what that particular promotion, newsletter, ad, whatever, what impact it had and whether or not it was profitable or worth it to you, right? Sometimes it's not always about the money. People have other goals for promotions, but you've got to actually track that stuff. But if you do track it and you find something that works, do it again. All right, so for a promotions calendar, one of the things I look at is whether something is a drip or a blast. So a drip is a long-term low spend. So I have big catalogs. So I have some books that are free. You can put a book free, and that is only valuable if there are lots and lots of other books after for people to buy, and they actually find the free book, read the free book, get to the end of the free book, and want the next one, right? So it's not just put your book for free and suddenly you're going to have sales. It doesn't work that way. So if you have a free book, then you have to be telling people about the free book. And I do that through Facebook ads usually. So for me, that's a drip ad. So it's a few bucks every day, all the time, for forever after kind of a thing, right? So that's a drip. Blast is going to be, I have a release. I'm going to spend some money on this. I'm going to go apply for a newsletter promotion in one of these, new paid newsletters that has room for new books. That's a blast, right? It's a short thing. It's going to cost a little bit more money, sometimes a lot more money. and it's only going to last for a short period of time, it's not something that you're going to pay over a long period of time that has a low impact. So it's high cost, high impact versus low cost, low impact. If you're if you're creating a calendar, be sure, and I mentioned this before, that you include your newsletter sends on your calendar. That is absolutely a part of your promotions calendar. And consistency is ideal. I'm not super consistent. It is better. It has been proven over and over again that you be consistent, whether it's weekly, monthly, or quarterly. If you're producing and releasing a book every year, you might consider doing quarterly. I would say even then, probably still monthly. If you're only writing and releasing your books every 2 years, then quarterly might work for you. And the reason you want that to happen is you've got to touch base with those people or they will forget why they are there. And they will be pissed when you eventually send an email. Your newsletter is going to act as an amplifier of everything. So if you've gone to the trouble of applying for one of these newsletter promotions and you've discounted your book, well, tell your newsletter about it, right? It's just going to amplify the effects of the promotion that you are already doing. If you have an event that's taking place, like you're doing a book signing or you're doing something, an event live on Facebook or whatever, tell your newsletter about it. Or even say you have like a giveaway on your Facebook page. You want to be like, hey, people on my newsletter, did you know that I have fun things that happen on my Facebook page? You should go sign up over there. People on your Facebook page. Hey, Facebook page people, did you know that I'm giving away this free short story I just wrote to my newsletter, but you have to be on my newsletter to get it. Go sign up for my newsletter, right? So you can amplify that way. Don't forget to periodically mention your backlist books, just because. Not everyone opens every email every time. And I hope that you are aware of that from your own behavior. Usually and when I say this, I mean, when I'm looking at how other people behave, usually using myself as an example is a terrible idea because I'm not necessarily like my readers. But in this instance, I think a lot of us do this. We may belong to a newsletter list, but we don't open it every single time they send something. Maybe it's just like, I'm not reading a lot right now. I just can't read right now. Work is too busy or, whatever. And then 6 months will go by and all of a sudden you're reading like a maniac and you realize you've missed 2 of your favorite authors' releases. And if they didn't mention that to you again in their newsletter, you wouldn't be aware, right? So just know that just because you said it one time doesn't mean that they actually heard it or saw it. So be comfortable mentioning things multiple times in your newsletter. Here's just a note on newsletters. Again, I think this is a whole nother huge presentation that could happen and hopefully some people will be interested in, but organic versus newsletter builder people act differently. Organic people are people who read your book, get to the back of the book, see that you have a newsletter and sign up because they want to stay in touch. Newsletter builder people are people who are like, this person writes in a genre, like they have this book, it sounds like it might be fabulous. They sign up, they get this free book, and then they decide that indeed you are fabulous. Or no, you are not, and they will never read anything by you again. So they're just very different people and they act in very different ways. So just be aware of that. And here's a summary. Familiarize yourself with your backlist. Know what's in the pipeline, even if your plans change. Choose the best types of promotion given your resource limitations, time, energy, and money. Create a calendar, scheduling your promotions in advance for optimal effect. There's so much in this portion right here that we just covered that I did not talk about. And I'm going to pitch it at the end of the presentation. But again, every month, the first Thursday, there is a marketing happy hour. I strongly encourage if you guys want to chat about that stuff, that is such a great time to do that. All right, keeping readers. We're going to go ahead and go through because that first part was the longest part. Buy through is what this is called, buying from one thing to the next thing. So just real quickly, when I'm talking about buy through, I mean, they buy book 1 and then 2 and then 3 all the way to book 4. Oops. When they get to book 4, where are they going? Well, maybe here, maybe there, right? This is your reader journey, right? This is part of my reader journey. This is where I'm sending people. That's what buy through is. Again, if you want this presentation, you're going to get a link for it, but this is an example of some back matter that I have in one of my books. It's a kind of recent release. You have to ask for what you want. I'm asking people to do things in this, right? If you want them to buy a book, then you have to tell them which one, you have to tell them why, and you have to give them a link. So thank you for reading The Reluctant Renfield. For Mallory's next adventure, pick up the Hexed Hunt, now available for pre-order. I don't pitch it. I haven't written it yet. I don't have a lot to say about it. People that are reading book 8 are probably going to want to read book 9. Let's be real. The next one I pitch, ready for more vegan vamp world fun beyond Mallory's series? Check out Night Shift Witch, featuring Star as a young witch, right? So I'm like, hey, this side character you really like, go read her stuff. That's my why. And then I give a link. If you want them to join your newsletter, then why should they bother, right? And you need to pitch them. You know, come and join my newsletter for these great things. And then you need to link to an incentive of some kind. Again, this is a whole nother presentation, but this would be where you would do that if that was your most important thing that you wanted. It's not for me. Mine don't go here. Write a review, then you need to pitch it. You need to convince them that they need to write. I'm going to tell you, I never ask for a review at the end of a book. You see this little break up here, this white thing at the top, that is right before that was the last sentence of the book. This is your prime real estate. I put a pitch for a review, if I give one, in my author's note. I do not put it in this very high real estate area. But you can choose to do that. If that's the most important thing to you, then absolutely do that. How do you create buy-through using craft? You meet genre expectations. You do not break all the genre expectations. You can break some of them. You do not break them all. You deliver a satisfying emotional journey, most especially delivering at the end. If you do not give justice and you're writing a mystery, shame on you. If you do not have a happily ever after and you're writing a romance, shame on you. Right? And so you need to not only give them that end that they want, but also give them a satisfying journey to get there, right? Alternatively, some people write cliffhangers. I don't. And they're a really, really, a cliffy, or they call them cliffies, or a really strong hook. I will have hooks at the end. I do not write cliffhangers. I have nothing against that. I won't buy them. I won't write them. I have no moral issue with them. They sell incredibly well. So if that is something you enjoy doing, go forth, do it. Create connectivity in your series and even in your catalog. You can do this with threads or arcs that stretch through multiple books, recurring characters, and not just a series, but in standalones that exist in the same world. So I do a lot of this. I'm going to take this one character and I'm going to write a standalone about them and make it a Christmas story. I'm going to take this one character and spin it off into a new series. Right? They want to feel like they're insiders in your world. And the more little Easter eggs you can do, the more overlapping of characters, the more you can give them of that connectivity between all of your things, the more like an insider they feel and the more excited they are about it. So the book's been purchased, right? They saw your cover and thought it was amazing, bought it, or they saw your cover and went to your product page, bought it. Then here's the rest of the story. Your plot, your characters, and your voice will pull the reader to the end of the book. And then your book, especially the end, sells your next book. And this is why I tell people, if your book is completely crappy, that is not why it's not selling. And maybe why they're not buying book 2, but it's not why book 1 is not being sold. Book 1 is a packaging issue, okay? All right, and here's the last little bonusy thing, right? So reader retention on crack. This is something I'm not good at, but it's a thing that we should all aspire to if we're not doing it. So produce content in the same genre that's consistently, predictably of good quality and in your voice. I do that. I mean, I think I do that. I hope I do that. I try to do that. Engage with your readers. I don't do a lot of that in small ways. So you can have an author's note at the end of your book, Facebook content that asks people to reply or engage. I know Karen McInerney is here today. If you guys don't follow her on Facebook, you should follow her on Facebook. She's amazing at that, right? Same with your newsletter, like engaging stuff in the newsletter that encourages people to reply, asking them questions, not just to ask them questions, but things that really matter, polls, that kind of thing. And in bigger ways, you can have Facebook Live events. You can have basically all of your content is a story. So anytime you're talking to people on Facebook, it's a story. Anytime you're sending a newsletter out, it's a story. That's really engaging and providing content that they want. Creating a community, having a reader group on Facebook, going to large genre con reading or reader signings. People who meet you in person, they're just like, yes, I met her. She's awesome. That's great. Merchandise that also is, again, it's that insider world. They're like, they're in the world and now they can buy stuff that, identifies them as inside the world. Okay. All right. I don't know how we're doing on time. Are we okay on time to answer some questions?
Yes.
Okay. I have one little thing that's left after this, but that's the presentation part.
All right, if anybody has any questions, either in person or online, just let us know. I don't see any in the chat just yet.
Okay, I think I know. What's an Easter egg?
Did you hear that question? It was
I did not. Well,
what is an Easter egg?
oh yeah, it's like a little bonusy thing. So I will sometimes, I'm not super great at this, but there's some authors who are really fabulous. I'll just kind of drop a little thing in a book. I'll have, I track all of my characters. So I'll be like, oh, I need a bakery. I'm going to go grab this bakery from this other book and put it in there. And I'm not going to make any fuss about it. And I'm not going to, make it obvious that this bakery exists in another book. And that in fact, the baker was a side character in this other book, right? It's not when you have like major characters, it's like these little tiny things or someone's favorite chocolate. I have that in my like one of my mysteries. It's like, oh, there's this great chocolate. And then someone else is like, oh, there's this great chocolate. So we all know that there's like this local chocolate produced in this little town that everyone loves, right? It's these little tiny things that you just like, you track and you just drop them in without making a big fuss about it. And people who are reading carefully or, I mean, my gosh, I get these emails, people are like, I read this series like 5 times. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like, that's a little scary because like, I don't know about the consistency that it holds up to 5 times of reading. But those people who read those books 5 times, then that's very satisfying to them because they pick up on it. They're like, oh, that's that person from that other series. Oh, that's that person from that other book. They get all excited about it. That's what I mean by Easter egg.
Thank you. Karen McInerney says, thanks for the shout out. And she has a question for you. Do you prefer Facebook ads or Amazon ads?
I struggle with Amazon ads. I definitely prefer Facebook ads. I consider Amazon ads for me. I mean, some people do fabulously with them. For me, they're the low hanging fruit. I spend maybe, well, I don't want to talk about how much I spend because we're recording this, but I don't spend very much money. I just spend enough to get like, the stuff that's really easy to get. So I have like auto target ads on basically every new release, but I'm spending almost all of my budget on Facebook because I can track that. I can see the results. I can see them working. I can make them spend. I can't make those Amazon ads spend.
Kathy has a question for you. She says, so far I've only written one series in the mystery genre, and it is a traditional mystery series. I've been working off and on with a cozy mystery series, which has a lot of comedy. Do I need to publish them under a different name?
I mean, I wouldn't, not unless you're going to offend people. Those are so close. So like I have some sweet romance published under my cozy mystery name because they complement each other. I don't have my profanity riddled sex on the page romance published under the same name as my cozy mysteries because there are some readers who would be deeply offended by those books. So I think if they're some people, I've seen people who write paranormal romance and their vampires are one pen name and their shifters are another pen name. I mean, there are marketing reasons to do that, but unless you're really finely refining your targeting and I think as long as it's not offensive to other people and it's generally, I think those audiences overlap a lot. It's basically what I'm trying to say. Anything else? Because I'm going to zip by to the next one. If not, I don't see anything.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think we're good to keep going.
I just wanted to pitch monthly Thursday marketing meeting. This is the happy hour that happens on the first Thursday. This is if you're not really sure what genre you're writing in, this is a great place to like go and chit chat with people and like try and like give them all the details so that we can figure it out, you know, all together. Finding cover comps, what to include when briefing your cover designer, brainstorming titles, chatting about ads, all that kind of stuff is what happens at that monthly happy hour. And I'm pretty sure this is only available to sync members, to hot sync members, people who are members of the Heart of Texas Sisters in Crime. But I'm pretty sure this gets mentioned in the newsletter every month.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
There's that. Now here's the last thing I wanted you guys to do. Reread the goals that you listed. Hopefully you jotted them down. Are they the same? Did anything I say change any of the goals that I'm not saying it should have or it shouldn't have. And was there a specific portion of this presentation that might help you achieve those goals that you wrote down earlier? And is there a part of this presentation you'd like to see expanded upon? And I don't mean by me, I mean anyone, an expert in the area, because I think those are great topics for people to come back and talk about. This is very much a general overview.
We have a couple other questions that have just come up.
Yeah.
First, Karen asks, is there a website for the Zoom happy hour or a link?
Can you?
Is there a link or a website for the Zoom happy hour? It's for members only.
It is one of our perks for doing the being a member.
There we are. That should help. Okay. It is a perk that comes along with your $25 chapter membership fee. And we would love to have everybody there. Kate is a marvelous resource for us. And if you think you heard a lot here, you should go to these meetings.
And there's one other question here in the chat that I see. Are the Easter eggs ever real, like a real location or product?
Oh, that's interesting. I used to do that. Like when I first started writing, I was more excited about doing that. So like in my last library series, which is my first series, I include like a local, which is since now closed down because of the pandemic, a really cute little cafe that I used to go to all the time. So I would occasionally do that, but it's mostly, so you've created this, this entire world. And even if you don't write fantasy, you are world building. You've got this whole world of fictional people, probably fictional places. And it's these little hints, these little insider hints, right? That people get so excited about. I know I'm that way when I read my favorite authors, I'll read a romance because I'm reading mostly romance these days, but I'll read a romance series and I'll be like, wait, this character looks really familiar. Oh my gosh, I think they're from another book. And then I'll go and like hunt them down and I'll go and reread the book, even if it's not the main character, even if it's some side character, I'll go and like reread the book. So yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well, I'm just going to reiterate that Kate is the bomb, and thank you so much.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. I hope it was real like super quick because I knew it was a lot of stuff. So hopefully.
But you nailed it, man. You nailed it. Thank you so much to Maureen and West Bank Library for all the technology that you guys provide and the assistance. We're home. One last reminder about next month's meeting. It is the Heart of Texas open forum for our members. We'll be on Zoom, and we welcome anyone who wants to join us on Zoom. We're going to be talking about how you choose your point of view for your books, character development, maybe some more marketing, what you do personally for marketing. And any other questions y'all might have, it's just, let's get to know each other again. So, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Maureen, and everybody stay cool and safe. Bye-bye.